All right, welcome, welcome. So, um, I don't know if I'm live or not. I'm sure I am. Anyway, long story short, as you guys all know, we saw the curtain fall on TikTok, controlled by the Supreme Court, that went against Biden and Trump, even Trump asking for a day or two extension. And I don't want you to lose heart, obviously. I don't want you to lose heart. I'm trying to find the chat. Community moderation. Anyway, is it on? It's on. Okay, good. So let me just not get distracted by the technology of this thing. It's either going to record or not. I don't know, whatever. I never thought I'd say this, but I understand now why so many Gen Xers, millennials, and so on and so forth don't like boomers. We're not all created equal. A lot of boomers actually never stopped being hippies, never stopped being irreverent, never stopped doing what they were supposed to do, which was fight a system. I'm live. Yes. Hi, Letty. It's good to see you. It's in front of my little drum because I still want my privacy. And so for the Supreme Court, made up of not wise people, they're not wise. They're old. And they're not old because they're decrepit, calcified, and old because of the way their body looks. They're old because they're old in the mind. It's something I never understood, really. I just took it for granted that as you got older, you got wiser, more expansive, more generous in your heart. And then as I got older, I realized that that was a lie. And there are people in power that are just fucking old. They are like cement in their hearts, in their minds. The technology that you take for granted in your hand, they are still in the 1970s and 80s. They wish to go back to high school. They think their best years were in high school. How pathetic is that? So this TikTok ban that we are now living through and is a test to our monkey minds. The need to distract is very fierce in many. Apparently 100 million Americans need that distraction. They need the distraction, I'm going to call it the addiction of TikTok. For some of us, it was a tool to save lives, human lives and animal lives. For some of us, it was a tool to expand our messages. For some of us, it was for us to make rent. Some people actually, quit toxic jobs and became independent, making what they were making on TikTok, what they had earned at toxic jobs. For some, they thrived. Whatever the reason, people thrived. And you just have seen a Supreme Court say, we don't give a fuck about you. I don't know how much they make a year, each of them. I don't know if they have insider trading. I don't know if they are, I don't know, part of the 1% or the monkeys, the puppets on a string of the 1%. But whatever they are, whatever their agenda is, I can tell you that it's not going to impact the new earth and your part in the new earth. So instead of going out and getting distracted and going to Red Note or Instagram or supporting Meta, once again, the very machine that drove TikTok to the ground, I'm going to invite you to stop always looking for distractions. This need for distraction, this need not to be alone, this need to fill one's mind with noise, whether it's movie or big screen where you've just got literally TV just blaring. Do you know how many people I call when I do readings? And the TV's in the background. And there's no one else in the house. They need the noise of distraction to keep them from actually being in their thoughts. This ability to be in your silence is the very thing that most people avoid, and yet they plead to God to give them messages. Well, I'm sorry, I don't know about you, but I can't hear 3 different conversations going at once. The monkey mind, the TV set, and maybe God speaking to me. It becomes chaotic. There is no way for me to hear that unless I'm in silence with myself. And then I get the downloads that I need. Similarly, you are being asked by the universe to go into silence, not to run to Red Note or Instagram or whatever to fill and clutter your need to scroll. Not now. Not at all. Because you see, the message of the TikTok ban is wide, and its reach of shutting this app down is now moving, spilling into Canada. Why is that? As we speak right now, a ceasefire was declared, I think 3 days ago, and it still has not come into official effect. The people that were able to reach out to us in that part of the world no longer can, not to Americans. And you were some of the biggest supporters besides many of the Europeans. And of course, let's give kudos to the Irish, who taught us the meaning of empathy, who eradicated the concept of racism. Because you see, these Irish were supporting brown people, brown and black. And the Palestinians are no different than you and me. They come in all shades and colors, from blonde hair to blue eyes, all the way to the darkest of skin and the darkest of eyes. We learned a lot from this app, and that is the very reason why it was shut down. I just deleted Messenger from my Facebook, because for years I had heard that it could collect data, and actually it could hear and listen on my phone. And then for some reason, and this is the concept of awakening, you know but you don't know, or you know but you don't act on it. And so now, yesterday, I asked the most important people, I even emailed one person saying, if you want to contact me through email, or here's my phone number. Because I will not be using Messenger. And a lot of lazy boomers, lazy, you're fucking lazy, just won't give up Facebook. Decrepit old minds. Learn how to fucking reach within yourself and learn new apps, new ways of contacting your grandchildren and your children. Fuck Facebook. And people are so, well, all my people just know me. They just don't want to use anything else. Then force them. If you want access to me, you can contact me on Telegram. I'm sure your grandson or granddaughter can download the app, and it's as easy as anything. 1, 2, 3. Boomers need to be a little more, I'm sorry, you need to be embarrassed. My 84-year-old mother on an oxygen tank was learning new applications, okay? 84. So that she could make that extra $500 a month, because her Social Security was not enough. And I was just holding on myself. Okay? Talk about a boomer born in 1939. So if she could learn with a lung disease, right? To actually learn new ways of technology to earn that extra, then your boomer ass can do it too. You're healthy. You're taking walks. You're making your own meals. Then stop being lazy and stop being so stubborn and calling it anything else but laziness. It's laziness. There's a reason why we are asking you to stop supporting Meta. It is political, it is social, and it is the right of these young children, these young adult children that we have birthed from our wombs, from your seeds as men, to have a better world, not a worse one. And so far it's looking worse, not better. That means if we're asking you to get off Meta, there's a reason. It's enough this and that. Oh, well, I'm just on my, then download your damn pictures like I did. Download all your videos, all your pictures, back it up on an external hard drive, internal hard drive. I've been on the internet since 1998 when I was 36 years old. I think you can handle the changes. If at 36 you weren't learning this shit, if at 47 you weren't learning, shame on you. Shame on you to be that afraid of technology. And these senators who were during the first hearings of TikTok, who didn't understand algorithm, who were throwing themselves under the bus by saying, well, why is there all these transvestites and all of this sex stuff? Well, dude, unless you're fucking scrolling and searching that shit, ain't coming on our fucking feed. When I was looking to rescue dogs, all I saw was dogs. Dogs having fun, dogs in shelters, dogs in rescues. This is why people in TikTok are so fucking upset. Because unless the alternative of these apps, they were feeding us shit that we didn't want to see. Because the algorithm of Meta is shit. Whereas now we walked into TikTok, and if you were interested in learning how to crochet, girl, you were going to get all the best crochet makers on the planet. On the planet, from Sweden to Hong Kong to China to Pakistan, all over the world. And this is why people don't fucking understand this app and why it was so important. Fuck Red Note. I tried it. You know why I tried it? For you, not for me, because I already knew the story. I put on things on Recall. I put on things on Twin Flames. I put on a poem that they couldn't translate. And all of it was flagged for violation of content. There was nothing sexual. There was nothing nude. And it was multiracial. You know my art. You know what I do. You know what I do. And some of it, and you know this, maybe you haven't noticed, it's Tibetan work. I have Mongolian women. I actually put on AI, Mongolian woman. Tibetan woman, because the features change. I know exactly what I'm doing when I do the work, the art on AI. I put Sudanese woman. I don't just put African. I put Sudanese, Ethiopian woman, Nigerian woman, African American woman. I swear to God, that's what I do. Just so you know now, with red hair, just, you know, to make it interesting and beautiful, with chakras and Mendi art. This is what I plug in when I do my AI. And they didn't like all of that. I guess they didn't like the art. You could say, well, what about people who are showing their faces? There's a lot of things going on where the exposure that Americans are having on Red Note is shocking to me, because you would have thought that they would have listened to their own American brothers and sisters in Spain, in Portugal, in France, in England, in Japan, in Thailand, in Bali, Russia, Norway, saying, oh my God, I was in a car accident, I broke my leg, and the bill was $100. You would have thought they would have listened. They never did. It took China to say, you think we're in gulags, but we're not. But don't forget, there were a lot of Chinese, and I did download a lot of their videos, 2 Chinese women talking about why they're in America, not in China. And why they're in America, I'm still puzzled, because I would have preferred to go anywhere else but America. To be honest, I'm being very real with you. I have lived here for a long, long time. When people would ask me, how long have you been here? I'd say too long. And I wasn't kidding. And the universe wants me here. And I know why. Because apparently I have to witness the implosion of a country whose gift to humanity was this irreverence of can do. If you were a poet, if you were a philosopher, if you were an inventor, a lawyer, there was this attitude of you could reinvent yourself and go from that to become a chocolate maker, or a pilot, or a hot air balloon pilot, or change your career, something that Europeans do not do. There was an energy about Americans that was almost a swaggering arrogance that was very annoying to the Europeans, but there was something good about that, because it was like, I can do anything. And now I'm seeing Americans going on Red Note with their tails like beaten dogs between their legs, saying, oh my God, I suck, we have no freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech, because if I was doing this on Red Note, I would have been shut down within the first minute. Don't mistake. Freedom of speech is convenient or not in America. Freedom of speech in China is fucking impossible. There are too many people. I've been on this journey of Palestine and China since I was 10. Why? Because one of the things I love about France is they love to read books, all kinds of books, and there's no age limit. You read whatever the fuck you want. And what was in, as you can in this country, but most kids aren't taught to love how to read. Let's be honest. That's why we have an illiteracy problem in this country. People are graduating with a certificate of completion of high school, not a diploma, a certificate of completion in high school. And they still can't read or read to comprehend. And no one in this educational system has decided to take best practices from, say, Finland, where there's no homework, for example. This is not to bash America. It's to say you have a crossroad moment where you can actually gather the elders like me who have seen this country go down the fucking hill, who are not boomer in mentality. We don't have a cement cage for a brain. We are expansive. We want this country to thrive for you. Personally, I don't give a shit, right, on a global scale for myself, because I'm closer to the end than the beginning. But I care for you and your children and my child and his children. And I know how expansive we can be. The New Age movement really exploded in this country. This concept of being able to be a Wicca, or to be a Buddhist, or to have any religion you wanted without being persecuted or harmed or jailed, was in this country. And now we're going to act like we don't have freedom of speech? My friends, swear to God, are you really seriously that asleep? And so at the end of the day, this exercise in how we're going to control our monkey mind from a place of despair and powerlessness to a place of light, to a place where we're co-creating energetically. How many times have I talked about the fact that energy has more power than matter? As a matter of fact, matter is controlled by our thoughts. And this is science, and I say it all the time. Any questions or comments? Because I'd love to hear your questions or comments. Any questions or comments? So, I don't know what else to say. I don't have much to say besides that. To me, you have so much potential. And the last thing you should do is just go on. I'm going to be go back to the old, go back to Red Note, go back to Instagram, go back to Facebook, and keep scrolling. That's not what this exercise is meant to teach you. It's almost like a man who's afraid of being alone. So he goes from one girlfriend to another, to another, to another, to another, and another, and he never wants to actually be alone. And he will pick one toxic girlfriend after another, because to be alone is worse than to be, with somebody crappy. And so these apps, we're realizing what these apps are for, right? How many of you woke up because of TikTok? You were exposed to spiritual concept. Maybe the question you typed in one day was, what is reincarnation? Or what is my existence? Or what is a mission? What is my spiritual soul? What is my soul? What am I made of? Why am I here? And you went down the rabbit hole of all kinds of content creators who were talking about ancient wisdom and reincarnation and karma and things of that nature. And suddenly what you thought was real imploded. It was like a slow cascading of a shaking up of what you had been taught to think was real. And you were realizing that much of what you were listening to, much, if not all of it, was really the answers you've been seeking your entire existence. And then you started really going back into past lives. And then you started really taking meditation seriously. And then you started getting downloads, and then you started having downloads that were intense, and it frightened you, and you went to more content creators pages to see what were the answers to those downloads, and you were trying not to gaslight yourself, and you were trying not to be go through psychosis, and people were saying that psychosis was part of the awakening, and some people were saying it wasn't. I relate to feeling like I've been in the US for too long. I've wanted to reside anywhere else since I was about 16. I'm 34 now. I do believe I'm here for a reason, though. I understand, Jay. Thank you for adding that. Hello, Yasini. So does that make sense? So there's a lot, right? There's a lot to be thankful for in this timeline. I know it feels really heavy and dense. It really feels heavy and dense. And for some of you who actually feel compelled to live anywhere else but here, ask yourself what makes you more desirous. What is exciting to you, right? I've been saying Portugal for so long, it's stupid, you know. I've been talking about Portugal for a long time, and it's weird. I don't know why. I hate the architecture. Don't get me wrong, I hate it. It's like all, you know, cement. And I am sure some parts have beautiful homes. I don't know. But so far, I haven't been, I even told my aunt, Portugal, the architecture, oh yeah, the architecture, oh yeah, no. But Spain is incredible. Italy, I wouldn't go. I used to live in Rome as a kid. I personally, that's not my thing. France, yes, you know. The only reason why pot is not legal in France is because the winemakers are pushing an agenda not to make it legal because they know people prefer being sober and or using pot. So there's all these weird things going on. Whereas Portugal, it's all, you know, fucking free for all, and anything's free for all in Portugal. By the way, on the side note of that. So if you wanted to do ayahuasca with a shaman, you don't have to look over your shoulder, right? Things of that nature. So I don't know, you know, I feel as if our country took being the police of the world a little too far, bullied way too many countries, from South America to Africa with World Bank, and look up World Bank, look up the fuckery they've done to some of these African countries, and you'll see why the African presidents are basically giving America the big fuck you. And they're correct. They're correct to do that. I hate to say it, but they are. So there's a lot. I want to find my ancestral last names that were taken, repair paper, genocide, etc. I hear you. I think your answers would come to you if you traveled. I think you're trying to control this desire, and traveling would give you what you need, a sense of purpose. And if I were to do it all over again, I'm going to tell you why I never left the country, just so you know, okay? I'd gone to the Bahamas with, I used to go all the time. I used to live there with my family in a hotel. I know that sounds crazy, but that was how it, I mean, I guess it was that cheap. It was cheaper to stay in a hotel. And I'll tell you exactly what it was called. It was called the British Colonial in Nassau, okay, Bahamas. Okay. And I remember going there with the father of my son when we were both, I think, 22, going on 21, 22. And he loved it. He felt so at peace. But I didn't realize how we had been brainwashed. And instead of us as young, we were a beautiful, madly in love couple. And we didn't understand how we should have just gone to the Bahamas, and I could have gotten a waitress job at the casino, and he could have gotten a job as in construction or whatever. You know what I mean? But he wanted the score. And this is something that I keep seeing in the American dialogue. I don't know if that's your history or that's your story, but the score, the lotto. I've seen people, and I was telling a friend of mine who's from Europe, I said to her, do you know some people actually spend $600 on lotto tickets? The score, the big fucking hit. When I get this amount of money, then I'll do this, this, and this. My whole entire life, I've been around people like that. And I can tell you that's not the answer. The answer is to take what you have and to go to another country and make it work, and work odd jobs and get it together, work under the table. That's right. I had friends who came from France to work under the table in San Francisco making sandwiches for people, gathering their money, experiencing San Francisco, and then going back home. Home was France in their case. So I would never do, I'm going to give you advice right now because I don't want you to do that in case you're thinking about it. I would never do an au pair. Au pair, meaning you get a stipend and you work for a family taking care of their kids. Don't ever don't ever do that. Okay? I'm going to straight up. It never fucking works. It's always fuckery. Every blue moon you may have a good family, but for the most part, it's actually an abusive situation you can't get out of financially. Okay? So my advice to you would be, I would like to move to France again and stay and keep traveling to where my ancestors call me. Thank you for encouraging me. Absolutely. If I were to do it again. So I remember the husband, the son, the father of my son, his name is Nick. Okay, so you know. So Nick, for whatever reason, just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. And because I was loyal, I stayed waiting for the score because I thought we'd get a score or I'd get a score or whatever, right? And then eventually I realized, no, there was no score coming. It was not going to happen that way. And maybe I'm here to teach you that, to let you know there is no score. The score is your life. There is no massive amount of money that's going to drop in your fucking lap if you're making that decision not to make big moves from you're literally editing it from a place of fear. So when the score is the answer to you not being in fear, it's the wrong energy and the score's not coming, if that makes sense. So the best thing to do is to maybe, if you're going to work fucking 2 jobs, live on basically, if you're going to eat cornflakes or fucking lentil and we used to work and our asses off and literally for weeks on end eat lentil and rice. That was it. And if I were to do it again, I would gather all our money and get one-way tickets to wherever, in my case, France, and just go and figure it out there. Get to a hostelry and just figure it out and just use my laptop and use my computer. And in those days, to be fair, there was none of the technology today. Today, to make money is not hard on this phone. In fact, the most important thing you should purchase, the most important thing you should invest in is your phone. So if you need to spend a certain amount of money on your iPhone, right? And you need 1 terabyte of memory, then fucking buy that phone. Put down the $1,500 you need or whatever the fuck it is to buy that phone, because that phone will make you fucking a living. If I were to give you any advice, and then have a laptop and get a good one. Yeah, invest in your equipment and then fucking get the fuck out of here and travel and do documents and content on traveling, on food, on fun, on this, on that, whatever the hell you want. And that's what you need to do. I agree. I work in service in the US, and that is enough for me. I'm going to learn AI digital art too. I really love yours. Well, it's nothing to learn. I swear to God, there's nothing to learn about digital art. What I'm trying to find, to be honest with you, what I'm looking for, because I stopped using I've got so much art that I'm just, repurposing it. But to be honest with you, I'm looking for really robust AI video creation. And I need a robust computer. I have a computer with I think it's 2 terabytes or whatever, but it's unfortunately too old. So I need a new computer, but I'm going to be looking for massive AI, like massive video content creating animated AI. Okay. And it could cost like $400 or $500 for the software. I don't know. I'm going to find out, who's putting out that kind of software. But once I find it, I'm laying down the money for that because I am so enamored by the ability to voice over and create beautiful evocative images that are inspiring and healing and calming. And I'm much more important. I'd rather do that than put my face on the screen every fucking time. Like sometimes, no offense to a lot of content, they have no choice, okay? That's just how they roll. But it's always the same background. It's always their face and the shirt color changes. That's it. And I just find that so boring, personally me. I don't want to really hear. I mean, if I'm going to sit and watch an interview, that's one thing. Okay, that's one thing. And am I watching the screen? No, I'm actually fucking doing shit while I'm listening to them talk. But for the most part, if I'm going to watch a creation like Astral Legend, he has my heart. Like I started watching him on TikTok. I found him on TikTok. And as soon as I found him on TikTok, I went, oh my God, I need more. And I followed him immediately. This was last year. This was like March of last year. I started following him on YouTube. And he has the most, and I'm like salivating. I'm like, I want to ask him, what software are you using? Fucking Christ, please tell me. Anyway, and cooking, everything saves me so much money. Yes. And so any other comments? I'm so happy you're here. You know, this is my first YouTube live. I've never done one before. And so I'm glad you're here. I'm really, really glad you guys are here. I don't know, do I have 3 people or 4? It's like I always have like such a small amount. I also made sure that it was 18 or over because I want to say anything I want and I don't want to get flagged by YouTube. And to be honest with you, there's some kids that shouldn't have access to this anyway. So, but I am going to read to you. I am going to read to you. Are you okay with, let me know, how many of you are there? Let me know if you'd like me to read to you right now. And I was going to read to you from my book, actually. How do you feel about that? Should I read to you? Because one of the things I realize is now I can read whatever the fuck I want. Let me see here. I want to read to you so many things. There's so many here. The first thing I do want to read, because I did buy this book specifically for you guys, and it's so... Oh, hang on. There's so many things we've talked about in my TikTok lives. So many things. One of the things I could not talk to you about was this book here. Look, Project Bluebeam. You see? Serge Monast. Okay, so let me read you some of this stuff. Let me see. So this is not to scare the shit out of you. This is just to let you know that I need you to start really working on your discernment, your heart chakra, and when you close your eyes, when shit's happening. We know that the orbs are, I'm going to completely on different path. I'm sorry. That's how my mind works. I must have a lot of air in my fucking planets. But anyway, we're going to be talking about this real quick about Project Bluebeam. And Project Bluebeam is where I need you to learn how to discern bullshit from truth. So the drones is human made, we know that. And the plasmic, what they call plasmic orbs, has a consciousness, a loving, sweet consciousness. And I want you to believe that. And I want you to understand that there will be things with Project Bluebeam. I'm actually going to read this to you, okay? Because I don't think we're going to be shot down here on this particular platform. Maybe that's why what this was all about for me personally. It was for me not to keep leaning into TikTok and for me to really speak my truth, okay? And the truth of others who have been muzzled, by the way, okay? All right, thank you for saying that. Awesome. Okay, Beth, you're here. Oh, that's so cool to see you. Okay, so let me tell you about Serge Monast, who wrote Project Bluebeam. Serge Monast, 1945 to 1996, he was a boomer, wasn't he? Was a Canadian investigative journalist, poet, and essayist. He is known to English-speaking readers mainly for his Bluebeam project. He was an active member of the Social Credit Party of Canada. In the early 1990s, he started writing on the theme of the New World Order. New World Order is not the New Earth. As I've said this many times before in my lives, as you well know, right? New World Order is what the 1% is trying to put into play. Hence, and TikTok had to be the end. Will it come back? It may come back under a new system. Don't get excited. This is an incredible time that we're being asked by the universe to sit in silence. Let me continue if you don't mind. Okay, the New World Order and conspiracies hatched by secret societies being particularly inspired by the work of William Guy Carr. My twin had his book, Pawns in the Game. Pawns in the Game. Hang on, let me give you that. This is the book that my twin always had in his shit. Pawns in the Game by William Carr. Here's a note. Do you see that? Okay, cool. Now this guy said some heavy ass shit. He was a general. Actually, let me tell you about him. William Guy Carr was a commander, born June 2nd, 1895, and died October 2nd, 1959. By the way, October 2nd was the day my parents got married in Gibraltar. That just on a random numerological thing here. And okay, so let me repeat it. He started writing on the theme of the New World Order and conspiracies hatched by secret societies. Secret societies with his speech. You can look it up on YouTube, and it's called "The Speech That Got Kennedy, Killed." I'm just going to say it like that. The speech that got him, offed. Go ahead and look that up, because secret societies is what Kennedy spoke of 3 weeks before he was, killed. Being particularly inspired by the works of William Guy Carr, he founded the International Free Press Agency, Agence Internationale de Presse Libre, which means Agents International of the Free Press, where he published most of his work on these themes, achieving some prominence with an interview on esotericism and ufologist Richard Glenn's TV show Esotérisme Expérimental, so experimental esotericism, in which he repeatedly warned his audience about the dangers of a world government. In 1994, he published Le Projet Bluebeam, in which he detailed his claim that NASA, with the help of the United Nations, was attempting to implement a New Age religion with the Antichrist as its head and start a new world order via technological simulation, second coming of Christ. You'll feel it. Trust me. This is why we're going through silence. We're going through silence to get into our heart chakra so we feel truth and we feel bullshit. This is not the time to start scrolling again and again. Trust me, this morning, I was clicking on my TikTok button. It's like somatically I'm used to it. I've been doing it for almost 2 years, right? So I get you. Like, I'm not walking on water, okay? I get you. I'm doing it too. But I have to remind myself that we need to fucking stop this, okay? Let me continue. He also gave talks on this topic. In 1995, he published his most detailed work, Les Protocoles de Toronto, by the way, 6.6.6, modeled upon the protocols of the Elders of Zion, and he said a Masonic group called 6.6.6 had for 20 years been gathering the world's powerful to establish a new world order and control the minds of individuals. Hello. By 1990, and how do you control the minds of individuals? You have them stressed out. They've done it with rats in labs. You stress out people. How do you stress out people? By making them work 2 jobs or 3. I know of a guy in Sacramento, California right now working 3 jobs. His average sleep time is 4 hours a day. That's all he can sleep. The sword over our heads is 3 swords. Like, they're showing me the 3 of swords in tarot, the 3 of swords. By 1995 and 96, Monas said he was being hunted by the police and authorities for involvement in networks of prohibited information. He died of a heart attack in his home December 1996 at age 51, the day after being arrested and spending a night in jail under a very strange and suspicious condition. This is the shit I could not read on a TikTok live. Everything happens for the best. Because I was concerned more about my little AI art and making it pretty for you than throwing my fucking phone in front of my drum. And I can't take you outside because I don't have Wi-Fi. It'll buffer. Because I would love to take you on a walk with me and talk. And then you'd probably see me at that point. I'd have the fun. But I can't because I live in an area where there's no fucking Wi-Fi. So that's out. Serge Manas has faithfully exposed the New World Order for the last decade. His children were homeschooled, so the authorities took his 8-year-old daughter away. Then his 7-year-old son was taken. As they said, the parents were abusing them emotionally by stopping the children going to a state school. State school. The reason why my son is how he is he got a lot of homeschooling. The father was then arrested and spent the night in jail. Next day at home, he had a heart attack. He was 46 years old. This brave man has left a wife and who now has no family. Publisher's note. Introduction. The infamous NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Let's not forget Stanley Kubrick involved in the making of the moon landing. Let's not forget. Bluebeam Project has 4 different steps in order to implement the New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head. We must remember that the New Age religion is the very foundation for the New World Government, without which religion, the dictatorship of the New World Order, is completely impossible. New Age. What have I been saying for the last year and a half? I totally distanced myself from New Age. I'm calling it ancient wisdom. Why? Because there were some nefarious characters in the very beginnings, which included Aleister Crowley and Blavatsky. It all felt, I mean, when I look at pictures of Blavatsky, excuse me, I'm like, When you look at a picture of Aleister Crowley, who was a pedo, it's a fucking no. It's a fuck no. I'm going to, okay. Any questions or comments, let me know. I'll read it. I'll read your comments. Okay. Without universal belief in the New Age religion, the success of the New World Order will be impossible. That is why the Blue Beam Project is so important to them, but it has been so well hidden until now. First step. Engineered earthquakes and hoaxed discoveries. Hoaxed. Remember the angel that was found in the middle of somewhere in Russia? It looked so real. It looked like it had been put into... like it had come out of cement. Do you remember? Look it up if you can on YouTube. I actually have the video. This is why you invest in 1 terabytes, because you download this shit so that one day when they say it never happened, you go, oh really? I have video. It's like this is one of the things I do. I collect. You know, I collect information like people collect stamps. Let's just put it that way. All right. Anyway, let's continue. The first step in the Nassau Bluebeam Project concerns the breakdown, revaluation of all archaeological knowledge. It deals with the setup with artificially created earthquakes at certain precise locations on the planet of supposedly new discoveries, which will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrine. The falsification of this information will be used to make all nations believe that their religious doctrines have been misunderstood for centuries and misinterpreted. Psychological preparation for that first step have already been implemented with the film, you won't believe this, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the Star Trek series, Independence Day, all of which deal with the invasion from space and the coming together of all nations to repel the invaders. The last film, Jurassic Park, deals with the theories of evolution and claim God's words are lies. Okay, well, let me just say this. First of all, God's word. Let's talk about that real quick. Hey, how are you? God's word. Well, God's word is, when we need to realize, and I have to say this also, is that you and I, who are born in the Western world, we're massive, and we've done it very multiple incarnations, by the way, but we are massively indoctrinated into the Judeo-Christian ideals that have given us the Old Testament of the God of Anunnaki. So what we need to really disseminate as light bringers. I know people will argue Satan and Lucifer is a light bringer. I'm like, fuck you, get out of my way. We're talking about light bringers, true light, light of God, not the Anunnaki God in the Old Testament, but the true God, the creator, the all, the consciousness of love that you feel at the incredible moments of your meditation, of your lovemaking, of your connection with nature, that love, the love you feel when you held your baby or a puppy, the love you felt in just hearing the ocean or stepping into the waters. That love. That love was not created by an Anunnaki God, which they're talking about the false God. Are they correct in saying that it's a false God? Well, no shit, Sherlock, we know. Thank you. Move on. And so that's where we need to get to. Again, it's discernment. And most average people have these brains that are clogged with cement. This is why I started my live with the concept of these people who are part of the judges who made the decision to go against Biden and Trump on eradicating TikTok, right? Not even a fucking day. It's fucking Sunday, my friend. He's about to be initiated, whatever, inaugurated on Monday. You can't wait? Wow. That's too much power for judges who are fucked up in the head, who took and remove the right of a woman or a girl or a child to make a decision when they were violated or not to remove an unwanted pregnancy. For example, these are the same motherfuckers doing this. There's a point where this consciousness needs to not be tolerated anymore. And there are young people like Wesley Huff, straight up, who are in young bodies with calcified brains and hearts. So they're talking about the hoax discoveries, right? Hoax discoveries. What is important to understand in the first step is that those earthquakes will hit a different part of the world where scientific and archaeological teachings have indicated that arcane mysteries have been buried. By those types of earthquakes, it will be possible for scientists to rediscover those arcane mysteries, which will be used to discredit all fundamental religious doctrine. This is the first preparation for the plan for humanity, because what they want to destroy is the belief of all Christians and Muslims on the planet. To do that, they need some false proof from the far past that will prove to all nations that their religion have all been misinterpreted and misunderstood. Well, we already know that. I don't need a fucking earthquake to tell me that. Isn't that interesting? Think about what I just said. Did you need an earthquake or proof of big feet or a big skull to tell you that what we've been told was bullshit? I didn't need it. It never made sense. Darwinism, a theory of how we were, dragging our knuckles to the floor as monkeys. Are we close to them? Yes. But there was something that went too quick. In other words, there were multiple types of humanoids. And finally, what we're looking at isn't what is being shown in 3D. I hope, for you. But what's in our hearts and our souls that bring us back to ancient truths about our existences and our experiences on this planet and other planets. We don't need anyone to tell us these religions are bullshit. Of course they're bullshit. Look at the damage. And I think it's that truth of self-discovery. And then what's exciting, and then us as a community coming together going, wait, did that happen? I remember talking about Men in Black. I didn't need it, says Andromeda Flame, but the indoctrination is very deep. They have been disconnected from their chakras. Okay? So does that make sense? Exactly. Disconnected from their chakras, disconnected from their souls, disconnected from the downloads they were getting and gaslighting themselves because of the brainwashing. For multiple incarnations, like I told you before, I've been a nun. Okay, so listen to the second step, the big space show in the sky. The second step in the NASA Bluebeam project involves a gigantic space show. I think we just went through that. Anyway, let's continue. With three-dimensional optical holograms and sounds, laser projection of multiple holographic images in the different parts of the world, each receiving a different image according to predominant regional national religious faith. This new God's voice will be speaking in all languages. In order to understand that, we must study various secret services research done in the last 25 years. I don't think those orbs were actually created by them at all. I think they had unmanned drones that they've always had, the military, and they just released them to confuse and to harm people's ideas and to create fear and to create self-gaslighting. And suddenly people were saying, oh yeah, the orbs turned into drones. No, they didn't. No, they did not. They did not. The drones were in front of the orbs. And then the skies became milky until we couldn't see the sky for a week. Many of us, that was the truth. That was a reality for many of us. It was going from Washington all the way to Europe. No one could fucking see the sky for a while, if you remember. Some it was for 3 days, some for 2, some for a whole week. You could say, well, it's winter. And I could say, well, it's been winter for a while, and yet we got to see them, clear skies. The Soviets have perfected an advanced computer, even exported them and fed them with the minute psychological particulars based on their studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body and the studies of the electrical, chemical, and biological properties of the human brain. We are hacking out of our human brain, my friends. Hacking out of this static little thing in my head, in your head. As a matter of fact, I wish the fuck I could remember this, but there was a man who had no brain. Do you remember that? Does anybody remember that? He had no brain. How the fuck? And yet he did. He lived a very normal life. Do you remember that? These computers were fed as well with the languages of all human cultures and their meanings. The dialects of all cultures have been fed into the computers from satellite transmissions. This is why NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory is coding their AI and massive computers with Sanskrit, because it is a mathematical language. When we use our own energy and our own, and we use mantras, Sanskrit mantras, not affirmations, Sanskrit mantras, it hacks us out of our human brain, the density of our brain, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? The Soviets began to feed the computers with objective programs like the ones of the new Messiah. It also seems that the Soviets, the New World, it also seems that the programs like the ones of the new Messiah, it also seems that the Soviets, the New World Order people, have resorted to suicidal methods with the human society by allocating electronical links for every person in every society and culture to induce suicidal thoughts if the person doesn't comply with the dictates of the New World Order. I'm interested on how they keep saying. I mean, I'm not going to agree with everything he's saying. I'm not. This is such an yes, it is. But I'm not going to believe everything he says. I don't think it's a Soviet plot. I really don't. Because remember, this was published after he was, God knows. I try to get the original, but you can't. So don't believe everything. You can't believe everything. But you can believe that there is a plan of the New World Order. We know that. And in terms of suicidal thoughts, there's nothing to implant. Most people are on pharma. You know what I'm saying, right? And so what does the package say? If you take that shit, it promotes homicidal or suicidal thoughts. Hello? Okay? When you're depressed because your mommy died, you're supposed to be fucking depressed. Can you imagine? And yet some people lobotomize themselves chemically because they don't want to feel the pain. Do you know that there are people, my son was one of them. I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel. When I said to him, well, my beautiful boy, my beautiful young man, if you don't feel, you'll become a psychopath. There's a reason why we feel. You understand? So we need to understand that there's just, don't get into the rabbit hole of thinking you can be controlled unconsciously. Apathy makes you get controlled unconsciously. Oh, great. Just anyway, they're always playing. And so that's what we need to look at. We need to look at what is next, what's to come. And I'm not keen on the Soviet dialogue in this book. Just letting you know. There are two different aspects to step 2. The first is the space show. Where does the space show come from? The space show, the holographic images will be used in a simulation of the ending during which all nations will be shown scenes that will be the fulfillment of that which they desire to verify the prophecies and adversary events. I could see that happening. There will be these will be projected from satellites onto the sodium layer about 60 sodium layer. There's a reason for that. About 60 miles above the Earth, we see tests every once in a while, but they are called UFOs and flying saucer sightings. The results of these deliberately staged events will be to show the world the new Christ, the new Messiah, Maitreya, for the immediate implementation of the world religion. Enough truth will be foisted upon an unsuspected world to hook them into the lie. Even the most learned will be deceived. Even the most learned will be deceived. The most learned doesn't mean the most open, the most expansive. It's going to be important to shut your eyes and go within. Okay? Let's continue. Any questions so far? Any comments? Do you guys agree, disagree? I'd love to get your feedback. What do you guys feel? Agree or disagree? Enough truth will be foisted. Okay. The project has perfected the ability for some device referred to as tractor beams by ufologists to lift up an enormous number of people as in a rapture and whisk the entire group into a never land. We see tests of this device in the abduction of humans by those mysterious little alien grays who snatch people out of their beds and through windows into waiting motherships. The calculated resistance to the universal religion and the new Messiah and the ensuing holy wars will result in the loss of human life on a scale never imagined before in all of human history. The Blue Beam Project will pretend to be the universal fulfillment of the prophecies of old as a major event, as that which occurred 2,000 years ago. In principle, it will make use of the skies as a movie screen on the sodium layer of about 60 miles, as space-based laser-generated satellites projected simultaneous images to the four corners of the planet in every language and dialect according to the region. It deals with the religious aspect of the New World Order and is a deception and seduction on a massive scale. Interesting. So this is why we've had, what is it called? What the fuck? Lines in the sky, sodium, lines in the sky. What are they? Oh God, I agree the stress levels have been high lately. It's been hard to feel balanced. Hi, Jennifer. Yeah, this morning, I was telling Andromeda Flame, this morning I woke up with the feeling of death. Now, I've had 3 people die in 4 years, and I never woke up with that, which is strange because I was taking care of 3 people. And you would have felt, but this feeling of death. And I went into a meditation, and a lot of my anger, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you what I was feeling, because I need to, meditations aren't always kumbaya. So I was actually processing a lot of anger, and I asked, what is this? Why this feeling of death? It felt like this sticky sweetness that was, death, right? And it said to me, I was told that it was because many of us on the collective and individual were actually purging massive karmic shit. We were actually in the death throes of the old versions of us from this life and past lives, karmic debris decaying and dying. This is what we're going through. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal what we're going through. Chemtrails, thank you. Yeah, so that's why they've had chemtrail. Now we know why. And also to slow the mind. Some chemtrails, I remember, I'm going to tell you something. In 2016, I lived in upstate New York with my twin. And I came across on a Facebook page, I think it was Vin Diesel, just to be clear, sorry. Vin Diesel, the actor, right? And he was going all through South America and speaking Spanish, and he's a very good man. He's actually one of the good ones. And I saw a picture of him kneeling, pointing to the sky, looking right at the camera of chemtrails. And I turned to my twin, I said, his career is fucking over. He did the movie Fast and Furious number 8 or 9 or 12 or whatever with Rock, and it was over. As you know, if you follow him, it's over. Crickets, you don't hear from him. He was trying to make a movie on Hannibal Barca, the 3 Punic Wars, right? He's actually going to do it in Punician and Latin, following the steps of Mel Gibson with The Passion of the Christ, Aramaic and Latin. And he was very much promoting it. I used to, I still follow him, but I've heard nothing from him. Crickets for 3 or 4 years. So the ones that are part of the machine, like Rock, Oprah Winfrey, all of these people are part of the agency. And what they don't understand with their 800 million or $1 billion is they're not part of the actual elite. They are being run by an elite class, as we know. But ultimately, to be honest, none of that shit fucking matters, honestly, because you are like an astronaut in this body, meaning what you do with this body is up to you. What you do with your perceived limitations of this physical body is really up to you. One of the best books on that actual truth was written by Ida Huxley, called Brave New World, where the beta, I don't know if you know the story, but I'm just tell you real quick, okay? The beta is the protagonist of the book Brave New World, and in it, the first opening is you see all of these, birthing chambers, these little bubbles of birthing chambers for babies, and the alphas get all the oxygen, and the betas get their oxygen turned off every day at a certain amount, so that they're not born smart. They're born subservient. Women no longer give birth. Their wombs no longer give birth to anything, any life form. Okay, they're all done in these factories. And in spite of him being a beta, right? He ends up being the hero of the book because he actually breaks away from the limitation of his brain. A brain that had manufactured to be subservient, compliant, no longer was. It was questioning, because the soul is way greater, and the soul hacks out of into anything it wants and out of anything. There is no prison planet, my friends. There never was. Unless you believe it. And then it is. Your reality is what you believe. Does that make sense? It's fascinating, actually, isn't it? And so you're a lot more powerful than you think. I agree the stress levels have been high. Chemtrails, I just got goosebumps from the karmic death feeling that you were explaining. Yeah, it felt, I could actually taste it. It felt, in my 62 years on this planet, I've never felt that before. That was really, honestly, creepy. Fucking, and I'm going to be honest. I thought it was, I thought it was a message that maybe this was my last year on this planet, to be honest. And it didn't, that fact didn't disturb me at all. But I thought, huh. And then I went into it deeper, and that wasn't it. That wasn't really actually the message. The message was our collective death. And that's why you need to be in silence. That's why you need to stop scrolling. That's why you need to go back into your books, into your audible books, right? And the books you've meant to read, the things you've been meaning to study, now is the time. The silence have been given to you to get into that understanding of the self through mentors, through teachers, through people who've gone through that. I was recommending a book called A Walk in the Physical, and except for the chapter 1, the rest is shit. I'm being honest with you. Absolute shit. Because he keeps fucking rattling page numbers. And that makes me sick. So as a woman, I highly recommend Women Who Run with the Wolves, because then you understand the subtle brainwashing that we have endured every time we incarnated as a woman or a man listening to these fairy tales. My favorite story, I've mentioned it before, is called The Red Shoes. In her book, again, Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pincolo Estes, and The Red Shoes. This concept of to desire means you're going to get fucked over by the universe. You are not supposed to desire. And as you know, for 2,000 years, religion and patriarchy has conditioned females not to, how dare you want? How dare you take pleasure in your sensuality, your sexuality? How dare you? How dare you want red shoes? Or to take a lover? Or to read sensual poetry? How dare you? So it's interesting. This whole Earth School has really been a fucking ride. And many of us were lucky enough to be born, like Andromeda's Flame said, it's a good time to be alive, because we get to actually take the final fucking exam out of here, out of 3D. This is the final exam. This is the exam that sets it all in the right place for you. for me. And it's exciting because we're going to get an A+. I'll tell you that. We're going to get an A+. Why? Because we know that nothing around us is real. It is a collective agreement. Oppression, suppression is an agreement. Elitism, separation, racism, class distinction, caste systems. And what's interesting about Red Note is I hope many of you Americans will go down the rabbit hole and actually get real books, not what's on Google, nothing being controlled on this shit. And read books from the 1800s. Books by the conquerors. Books by those being conquered. Books about what happened in China, for example. And books about Tibet, the truth, not the bullshit. And books about, and even stories about what happens in these types of wars, revolutions. There's a great book everyone should read at least once. It's called The Anatomy of a Revolution, which I can't find to save my fucking life. I can't find it. But if you find it, let me know. It's called The Anatomy of a Revolution. And it would have been written in the 1970s. And it talks about the stages that you will see played out in Russia, in China, in France. And we don't want to do that again. We don't want to be part of a physical, violent solution. It is not what we're meant to do. We are meant to actually live the reality of our multidimensional powers to manifest whatever we want in a blink's eye through past the density of 3D brains and the environment. Once we accomplish that, game over. Game fucking over. It's a toppling of this idea of the New World Order. Will it exist? For some it will. Because this is what they want. They want that. A lot of the people going on Red Note, I'm going to be very blunt, and I'm not here to offend you, are lazy. They thought that that was a great big fuck you. And it was. It was a big fuck you. But it also, if you continue scrolling through the shit, right? Instead of taking a silent moment for yourself, you're not getting the fucking assignment. Because it's one thing to realize I've been lied to. It's another to then, start fucking scrolling through all kinds of content for fucking 10 hours a day. And getting distracted from what we're supposed to be doing right now in silence, in long walks, in the snow, or on the beach, in long, drawn-out journaling sessions and meditations, in slow cooking, and if you're blessed to have a lover, in slow lovemaking, in reflections, in working with healers, in having esoteric conversations with your dear, beloved people that you surround yourself with, in creating community, one person at a time. I wasn't really that upset for TikTok, except for one thing. All the people who relied on it financially, all the people who begged this system, this government to not do this, because many of them would actually default on their rent or mortgage. All of the people who depended on it to save animals, horses, homeless people. I've actually sent money to homeless people, and they were homeless. Those people, those animals, those rescues, those nonprofit agencies, mom and pop nonprofit agencies are the ones that are going to get hit hard. And our government didn't give one fuck. And that's what we need. And now we realize. We realize that A government that's, if you're going to lose, and this is interesting about the American psychology that I'm watching. I was on Red Note and also on TikTok listening to American going, I'll give up my freedom of speech if I can be taken care of by the government. I'm not joking. I saw that again and again. Because a lot of Americans aren't political. They don't give a fuck. Do you understand? And are they wrong? Well, think about it. They're already non-political. They're getting absolutely nothing, no benefits from being non-political. They're getting no benefits except for being taxed up the ass, and then still being taxed when they buy food or clothes, and still being taxed on a car they're buying. In other words, it never ends. And if they get harmed, hurt, they're fucked. The medical system has imploded in our country. And it's interesting because in the UK, their idea of imploding medical is our fucking idea of, oh my God, I wish I could live there to get that kind of medical care. It's shocking. And what I want to say to you, and I will read, if you want me to read from Recall, I will. It'll be erotic. I have longed for your lives. So happy to hear your voice and message today. Oh, you're here. It's good to see you. You need to explain how to read Running with Wolves so nobody else does what I did. Oh, yeah. So running, I love the red shoes. Running, the way you read running, okay. Women Who Run with the Wolves, the way you have to buy a hard copy. Get yourself a hardback on eBay or whatever. Get it used, whatever. And then you will ask the universe, what do I need to know today? And just close your eyes and open the book wherever. And that's where you start reading. It may be a page, whatever. Maybe it's 2 pages before it ends of that particular chapter she's written, but that's okay. Read that. And the message will be, you'll be like spot on, holy fuck. And then you read, you go all the way back to where that chapter would have begun, right? So if you hit chapter 9, but you're on page 6 to 7, reach 6 to 7, and then go all the way back to page 1. Okay, for example, I'm just making it up, if that makes sense, right? And then you get the whole message. But Women Who Run with the Wolves is not a linear book. It's an oracle book. It's a book you use as an oracle, not as a linear book. If you read it as a linear book, you can be bored to tears. If you read it as an oracle, you will get your messages. It's that kind of book. So the one that came up for me when I first read it was The Red Shoes. And it struck me. I read it like 3 or 4 times. My twin read the entire book linearly to understand me. Because I told him, to me, that's the Bible for the female heart and consciousness. To me, it's the most important book a woman should have in her library. It is the kind of book that sisters give to sisters. When I mean sisters, I don't mean by bloodline. I mean by connection, soul connection. It's a book I was given. It's a book I've given other women. It's a book, if I find it on a giveaway shelf or a throwaway shelf, I fucking buy it for $2, $3. I throw it in my shelf, and I know one day I meet the right woman. I go, this is a gift to you. Here's how you read it. This is what I've been doing for since I was like 37. I've read bits and pieces of it like that. Cool. We saved lives on that app. Yeah. Oh, you did. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to read, we're going to go into something lighter, if you don't mind. And I'm going to read what I could have never read on TikTok in a million years. This book was banned by TikTok back in November of last year. It came out in November, and within a week it was banned by TikTok. It is highly erotic. It is based on memories of my actual past life in Mesopotamia. And it is downloads that I received with a man called Malik, who I met on AOL in actually around 1997, come to think of it. It was 1997. I just remembered. Yeah, that was it. And I don't know why I keep saying 1998 is when I went into technology. No, it was 1996, 1997. It was 1996. I just remembered. Because in 1994, I was working at a Bank of America doing, remember those discs, those flat drives or whatever the fuck it was called, those things, those little discs you'd put in to save your files. Holy shit, I had a whole bunch of them, and I guess they got lost. And so I'm going to read a little bit to you And I'm just going to read, yeah, I'm going to read The Crystal Skull. And then I'm actually going to read from one of my favorite books. So this is Recall. Just I'm putting it in front so you guys see. I'm reading from that. I'm reading what chapter is this? Chapter 11, which is appropriate. And then I'm going to read from this actual book. If you want to stay with me, I'm going to read a little bit of that. I'm just going to open it. And this is really a hard book to find, The Mysteries of the Crystal Skull Revealed. And I'm putting that up here. Sandra Bowen. Try to find this book. It's fantastic. And this book was actually the book that this was the actual book I'm talking about. So I'm going to read it to you. It's called The Crystal Skull, September 28th, 1997. I seriously love Sundays. There was something about doing nothing, but believe me, there's an art to that. Most people can't stop moving, but I learned long ago the benefits of a languorous day. I wanted to have brunch at Burger Continental, a Middle Eastern restaurant that serves sausages sauteed with onions and bell peppers, chicken and lamb shish kebab, scrambled eggs, home fries, dolmas, pita bread and hummus, baklava, and cooked champagne. All you can eat buffet for $13 a person. It was worth every penny. We decided to walk. It was around 10:30 in the morning. The sky was overcast, a slight chill colored the air, a perfect day to just putter around the house after a good meal. When we arrived, we were greeted by a big bear of a man who carried a perpetual look of confusion. However, he was kind, polite, and seated us. The waitress came to our table to ascertain if we wanted to order from the menu or go all out. We cut loose after she poured champagne in the little plastic champagne glasses with bottoms that screw on. I realized that they could topple over and spill champagne at any moment if either of us made a sudden move. So I asked our waitress to bring us water glasses so we could pour the contents of our champagne into these more secure vessels. I poured with a smile and asked her to leave the champagne bottle on the table and charmed her with by appealing to her sense of what's in it for me, unsaid question. I explained to her that I would save her a tip, a really big tip, and we planned to get toasted, and she laughed. I winked a promise, and that guaranteed her fawning over us for the rest of the meal, making sure that we never ran out of that cheap champagne or anything else we needed. The coffee was the only bad thing in the place, but then again, I was a coffee snob. Daniel was more easygoing about everything. I was the one who always made special demands and quite often got them granted. We ate with abandon that comes with camaraderie. We enjoyed the taste of a country we hoped we would one day visit. Any country. We always played this game that we were sitting in a courtyard in Greece, that we were 50 years old and retired. This was so easy for us to do as we sat in the inner courtyard of the restaurant. Olive trees in large pots added to the ambiance as sparrows stole crumbs. The floor was cobblestone and the music was Greek. How could we not travel to that land sitting on this little table that kept swaying back and forth? The waitress came with folded paper and placed it under one of the legs, stabilizing our meal. We talked of small things, of the book Daniel was reading about the skull that he had read in 2 days and was now rereading it. He was fascinated by the idea that the skull's purpose was to protect the world, that there were 6 other skulls whose purpose was similar, and that there were 2 missing. There's a story that says that it was created in Atlantis. A priestess of some power had been beheaded by a warring faction in Atlantis. This was the time of flying machines, of high technology, of human engineering. It was a time when scientists played with nature and brought about centaurs, mermaids, and cyclops. There was a rebel force that fought against the arrogance of the elite. They refused to listen, to reason, and so a war erupted. He stopped and took a gulp of his coffee. His face was animated, his eyes flashing green and gold with a passion that poured forth. And then I leaned forward, elbows to the table, well aware that my French mother would have frowned at such poor table manners, for a well-bred person never placed their elbows on the table while eating. It was considered uncouth, and it felt that my best moments were when I was uncouth because it was then that I was real. Daniel gathered his thoughts and began to lay down all the things that struck him most. Well, Jesus, there's so much, he exclaimed. Okay, he continued. Apparently, the priestess was heading the rebellion. She was captured, and her head was sent back as a message for them to back off. He paused, drinking champagne from the water glass, and grabbed the sausage with his hand, eating in that casual way that would have driven my mother crazy. Only barbarians ate with their hands, she often said, and yes, Daniel was mine. I stared at the sensuous curve of his mouth. I adored the dark lashes that rimmed his green eyes and found my belly leap in response to his heady magnetism. He was so freaking sexy that I often saw women stare up at him, forgetting themselves, lost in a dream of their own making. The fact that I stood right next to him had no bearing on their desires. That made me furious. He never flirted back, well, at least not in front of me. He had the good sense not to know better. He caught my look, one he knew so well. He threw me a devilish grin and winked. Go on, I stared at him coldly, hiding the promises I had made myself to rip him to pieces when we got back home. I wanted to taste the salt of his chest and the sweat between his balls. Yeah, later, much later. I was a patient pussycat when I wanted to be. I was biting into the drizzled honey sweetness of baklava, enjoying the contrast of sweet and the salt of the sausage I tasted. Go on, I repeated, mouth full. God, my mother would have been shuddered. Where was I? He asked, knowing damn well. They received her head. Ah, yes. So when they received her head, they stripped it clean of flesh. Ceremonies were performed with all the priests and priestesses, and they did some kind of ritual where they transformed the skull of her head into the quartz crystal skull that we have today. Are you kidding? He shook his head. How do they know all that? Well, psychics from all over the world had worked with the skull in deep meditation, and what they saw, they wrote, but never shared the information with each other until enough had been gathered. A team was organized, and they pored over each report, and each one told a similar story. I felt a chill run down my body and visibly shuddered. He nodded his head. Pretty heavy, isn't it? Holy fuck, I swore, swinging down a glass of champagne and pouring another. I nibbled on my dolma as he continued. Many other skulls were created, and when placed together, they manifest a power that can create or destroy. In this case, her presence is the reason why the world has not been annihilated itself. She is a guardian, but that's just my opinion. It's what I feel when I read about her. You know what fascinates me most? I said. What? That we are so bogged down by the bills and the minutiae of daily life that most of us, the masses, barely have enough time to ponder the ancient gifts and understand how they still impact us today. There's so much to learn, and yet we are pushed to the edge of reason with work and lose our real sense of purpose in the world. Surviving is just not enough. Yeah, he said, combing his fingers through his hair. It had gotten long and grazed the nape of his neck, and now it always fell over his eyes. You need a haircut, I remarked. I need a blowjob, he responded. You first, I challenged. That can't be arranged, he laughed. It was amazing, with money in the pocket, a good meal, some bad champagne, insipid coffee, and a great conversation could accomplish. I wanted him without reservation or resentment. We walked home, and to say we were drunk was an understatement. We were schnockered, ripped, and completely spent, so the walk was long and filled with giggles while we jostled each other. I told him we should hurry as the soft rain had begun, but he disagreed and he said that it was a heavy fog. This is not San Francisco, I recorded. Trust me, it's just a fog, he continued. We made it in one piece. I crawled up the stairs on all fours, bellowing with laughter. Daniel was having a hard time finding the lock, and I was having a harder time finding the right key. He knelt before the threshold of our apartment door and stared straight into the lock. He craned his neck and asked, "Did you by any slim chance bring your key?" I laughed my answer. He groaned his disappointment. "Give me your keys." I extended my hand in front of his face. He dropped the keys in the palm of my hand, and with a sigh, I narrowed my eyes and stared down at them. I picked one that felt familiar, and within seconds, we were inside. So, that was part of it. Anyway, oh, thank you for, it's my drum. You just started recall yesterday. We're talking about everything. We're talking about from the TikTok ban to the consciousness of the ascension, and now I'm going to read from this. Okay, I'm going to just jump into that right now. I'm just going to go random, whatever. So I'm going to ask the universe to show us what we need to read, and let me start. I think it is safe to conclude that the crystal skulls draw one into making contact with them. The gazer's vibration activates the skull on some level, which then sends them back energy appropriate to the observer that helps to further open a person's chakras, removes memory veils of knowledge contained in a person's consciousness, etc. Maybe we can say that any form of energy or vibration creates a response in the skulls, but that the type and magnitude of response can be totally unpredictable. I think that another purpose for scrying crystal skulls is that they present alternative realities to our minds. It can cause one to look far beyond conventional explanation of physical and universal laws. This gives credibility to the notion that whatever we can imagine must actually exist somewhere, even if it's on a dimension which we do not know. If the human brain were used at 100% efficiency, then perhaps the Mitchell-Hedges skull would be a model for the expression of the ultimate perfection. The Mitchell-Hedges skull has been, I'm just going to throw the gauntlet in the room here, has been, what's the word, debunked. In other words, people don't believe in it. But if you've ever seen the Mitchell-Hedges skull, which, by the way, Mitchell Hedges has been, the woman who actually kept it died. And then it went to another man who's now supposedly the caretaker of this skull. And I'm always going to call it the Mitchell Hedges skull because her stepfather found it in British Honduras in the turn of the century, 1900 something, 1900. But when you look at the skull, even if supposedly it was made in the 1940s, let's say, the lower jaw and the upper skull are so in other words, the craftsmanship is beyond reason. I have a crystal skull. You can actually see it above my line right there. You might see it right there. That skull right there sat next to the Mitchell-Hedges skull in Malibu. They were visiting. And that skull was talking to me. So it's not a bad idea. Like, take your time, but you may want to consider buying one at some point, or putting the attention out that you want one, right? And it will find you. Trust me. The Untethered Soul talks about that the prison we create around ourselves is to keep us from facing our fears. Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree. I just started Recall yesterday. Beautiful Light. It's a great book, Recall. Just FYI to those who haven't read the book. Oh, thank you, Scorpion Vibes. That's really kind of you. I'm glad you liked it. Thank God. Crystals, as you know, contain all kinds of energy, memories, holographic truths, and that's what these psychics. So I want to continue this a little bit, okay, if you don't mind. We on Earth, no doubt, need much education on taming and controlling the powerful gift of our human minds. The crystal skulls give evidence of this too, as well as evidence of other dimensions. For example, I found the Paris skull to be one of the most primitive looking. While reviewing slides of this skull, I did not receive the same peaceful feeling as with the Mitchell-Hedges skull. The skull had a heavy Latin energy full of violence and sadness. Looking directly into its eyes, I felt great cold sadness about our human history of brutality and disrespect for our home, Mother Earth. My feeling that at the time of the creation of the skull, it was a very loving stone, a perfect piece of work, as people began to misuse it in human sacrifices, which, by the way, is mentioned in my book, Recall, and tried to use its power for destruction. The physical form of the skull began reflecting this. It's kind of like the picture of Dorian Gray. Do you guys know that story where the painting ages, but he doesn't? So energy takes on energy. This is why one of the things we all do, and we all know to do, is to clear our crystal's energy. At least, I don't know, at least once a year. Fascinating. I agree. I'm going to get this book. Thank you for your knowledge. Always grateful to you. You're so sweet. Thank you. Let's continue. Thus, the skull changed from one of total beauty to a disheveled piece of crystal attempting to look like a human skull. For me, this was a graphic example of what the power of our thoughts can do when directed in a so-called negative mode. As these Berkeley lectures, Nick introduced the concept of laying grids on pictures of the skulls to better focus on particular portions when looking for images. Nick suggested placing a grid overlay of boxes, which can be 2, 4, 8, 16 in number, over the picture of a crystal skull, and then looking for the images within each box. He demonstrates with the slides how to use these grids. When I first began to scribe photographs, slides of videos of the crystal skulls, I found that my eyes could automatically look at particular sections as if I had received this training in other lifetimes. Sometimes I feel as if I don't have control, as if I'm literally pulled towards gazing at something. I interpret this as my higher self guiding me to look at an image when I am not thinking about anything in particular or when my mind is blank. Scrying with pictures of the Mitchell Hedges skull and Nick's home prior to this seminar, I got another insight concerning the skull's ability to act as a doorway to other dimensions where space and time are meaningless. In these pictures, one sees multiple images of the people working around the skull or with the skull itself. In some of these pictures, the photographs split, and on one side of the picture are objects and people who were not in the room when the shot was taken. Other aspects of the dimensional phenomena is the skull are number one, the appearance of what I can only call windows in the skull, or strange slanted geometric planes or patterns that spontaneously appeared. Two, in several of the pictures taken of the Mitchell Hedges skull, the skull's ability to project outside of itself by having the colors, which came out during their color test, appear on the photographs beyond or in front of the skull. Again, the research team was not sure how the skull did these things, but we could say there is much more to the Mitchell Hedges skull than what meets the eye. Let me also say this. I'm reading to you something that has been debunked, just like the Shroud of Turin was debunked. The book that I read when I was 17 called Jesus Lived in India had NASA carbon dating us, all of this shit in the 70s. Then it was debunked. Then I was listening to Mel Gibson saying, oh yeah, and it's not debunked, it's this, it's that, and they found pollen and leaves and petals that are only in Jerusalem. And the weave of the material was a certain thing. Well, as you know, and I don't know if you know, but Nicodemus, who donated the shroud for Yeshua, for Mary Magdalena and Mary, Mother Mary, to prepare his body for the shroud. Nicodemus was a very, very wealthy merchant. And the shroud had a particular weave that only the wealthy would have had, number one. Number two, it was debunked in the 80s, and then now suddenly we're accepting it again. So this crystal skull has been debunked. The guy who was actually carrying it, I forgot his name. I never believed he should have been the carrier of this. I don't know why she didn't make more, she wasn't more careful, meaning Mitchell Hedges, on having the right caretaker, because it is, you're caretaking of this powerful tool, right? And you don't hear about it anymore at all. And part of the debunking is to make sure that people, it's fake. And it's great for the cynics in the New Age movement. It's great because no one's going to look for it. It's interesting. So what we're about to see is a massive crossroad moment, like a wishbone in a chicken, where what we want becomes our reality. And why? Because we are co-creators of these realities. And I've talked about in many, many lives about how we can get out of these supposed limitations based on a foundation that is dying beneath your feet, beneath my feet. And it's weird because I can understand the fear that can happen. It's a very similar fear to when people take a cup of ayahuasca. When you take the cup, there's a moment where all the things you fear come at you. It just comes at you. Whatever images you're afraid of, it comes at you. And when you know it's a test, and you tuck into it, and you surrender fully, it explodes into sacred geometry and into truth and images of healing for you that no longer make you afraid. And I feel as if that's what we're going through. We're being asked to tuck in. We're being asked to just surrender and to let the powers that are way above these nefarious characters that want a new world order, to where we're lifted out of it. You see what I'm saying? And that is going to be the final exam. And lifted into what? Lifted into 5D. Some people are good, really, really good, but they don't have the bandwidth to do it. And so they are dropping their bodies because they can't do it. I remember a story that George Bush Sr. has stolen the skull of a tribal chief. Can't remember the name. That's interesting. Should I continue reading from this book? This was page, just so you know, this was Joshua Shapiro talking about the skull, page 87, in case you find this book. Hang on for a quick second, okay? I'm looking at something else. Let me see. This book I've been looking for years, and I found it. I can't tell you how happy I was to find it. So again, let me show you. It looks like this. Okay, this is what you're looking for. Okay, can you see that? You got it? Okay, if you need me to push it up again, let me know. Okay, let's continue. Listen to this. In addition to just using my physical eyes to see the images within the skull, sometimes my inner vision would work in tandem. I would dimly see an outline of an image or scene. I would require my mind's eye to clarify exactly what I was seeing. Sometimes I could just feel the vibration of the holographic picture and would instantly know that I was what I was perceiving. At other times, I would become curious, and if I was permitted by the source, which was projecting these images into the crystal skull, I could follow the vibration of the picture and feel the essence of its creator. Basically, this skull, right, this Mitchell Hedges skull we're talking about, was being used in Atlantis by the Atlanteans, by the factions that were against the 1%. Again, the same motherfucking 1% that we fought in Atlantis are here today, doing the same fuckery. I hope you know that. So it's a karmic loop that we are gonna hack out. Anyway, what was happening is that these high priests and priestesses had infused that skull with images of the story of Atlantis. I'm just like filling in the blanks because I'm not going to read the whole book today, obviously, but just so you know. At the Berkeley seminar, Ron Dickinson shared with us one of his personal visions from his meditation with the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. I saw his experience quite clearly as he described it. He saw some type of control room with monitors on a wall, except each monitor was made out of crystal quartz. There was what looked like a Mayan priest facing the wall of monitors, and each monitor was displaying a different scene from various parts of the world or possibly other worlds. The room reminded me very much of the control rooms we have seen on news broadcasts, or similar to the center of a strategic military base as we see in the movies. Another idea that came out of the weekend seminar dealt with Nick's feelings that the creators of the crystal skulls were a vastly superior race of beings who very possibly are still on or within the earth and have been here for a long time, possibly hundreds of thousands or millions of years. I had a very strong affinity with this theory. Nick also felt that the Amory book, The Skull Speaks, seems to support a similar theory. When I visualized this race or attempted to make contact, I saw an energy being off my right side and in front of me that appears to be a silver blue white color. As I went inward to touch the beam, my right ear felt as if someone were speaking to me, and it tingled, but I couldn't quite make out all the words, as if my ear were in another dimension. What I heard intuitively was that in the near future, our Earth is going to see almost daily changes, accident or earth changes. The emergence of the crystal skull is another attempt to remind humanity not to misuse the resources of the planet. The skulls are here to assist us in creating a planetary harmony and balance, and to guide us to wisdom, information, technologies, which can help. Thus comes the need for books or printed information to explore various explanations about the nature of the skulls and how they relate to the emergent Aquarian age. This book was written in the 80s. Does that make sense? Wow, right? It is my feeling in support of this theory that while the group was in Canada, they were assisting in a process on the physical level to help reactivate the skulls. Since the time, there have been rumors of other crystal skulls being found, which may be linked to the activation of the Mitchell-Hezes skull. I feel that, do you realize, right? You realize, I don't know if you know this or remember, that the Russians were totally against religious beliefs, right? As you know, right? But they really believed in psychic powers and energy. In fact, they would study, swear to God, and they had developed cameras to try to capture death as the soul emerged out of the body, to capture it, that moment. And they even had developed scales that were less than milligrams. I can't even come up with the name of what's less than milligrams, but to weigh the difference between the body when the soul was still in the body and the soul out. So why am I saying all this? Because these crystals that we use in our watches and phones and other systems hold memory. We can actually program these crystals. That's essentially, I know you know, that's what he's talking about. And I find it interesting that with all of this quote unquote new age, I prefer to call ancient wisdom activation and awakeness that's happening. It's happening like a tsunami, like a wave of, emotional awakeness, which is very painful to people. You would think this skull would be all over the fucking news, all over TikTok, all over YouTube, all over the place. And it's crickets. This idea of powerful crystals that were encoded by Atlanteans before the fall to help us. And so you have to if you decide you want to get yourself a crystal skull, right? Put the word out to the universe. You will be led to the right one. And then ask it to become a conduit to the Mitchell-Hezes skull. And I believe there's 13 other skulls. There's a total of, I think it's with the Mitchell, it's total of 13. And some were psychically picked up on but never seen. In other words, they're skulls that have never been found, and yet these psychics know they're out there. So, why is this important? I'll give you an example. It's a very small, little tiny example. But when I meditate with my skull, sometimes I put it onto my third eye. And here and there, not quite often, here and there, my third eye explodes into violet light. I remember when I first heard it happened to me, right? I thought, it was a random, again, self-gaslighting. And then I did it again. And then the following day, I did it again. Nothing happened. There was no light, nothing, just nothing. And every blue moon here and there, when I do it, when I'm in the right state of consciousness, I put that onto my third eye and it explodes into violet lights. So it's activating my pineal gland. It's activating my third eye. Does that make sense? So now as I'm reading this to you, and I do my best thinking out loud, to be honest, I'm realizing that we need to make these crystal skulls our conduits to the crystal skulls who were given to us by the Atlanteans and coded for this particular timeline. That's how we can do shit. That's how we can actually hack out of our brains. That's how we can topple the consciousness of the asleep who want to wake up and the asleep who want to stay asleep. The ones that want to stay asleep, they're going to have to do another turn on this system. That's all. I mean, there's nothing you can do, honestly. But we want, for ourselves and our children and our grandchildren and 7 generations out, we want the freedom to thrive, the freedom to learn, the freedom to enjoy, the freedom to eat fresh foods, the freedom, all the essential freedoms that come from being in the human body on this planet and other planets, not controlled by the draconians. The reptilians, which for many of you listening or reading David Icke is very, 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 very dark. It upsets you. So I'm not going to ask you to read from him, but I can tell you that what he's saying, a lot of it I agree, a lot of it I don't agree, but a lot of it I agree. And if you read my book, Recall, at the end, I'm just going to tell you, there's a sacrifice. Using the Mitchell Hedges skull. That was obviously, hopefully, those of you who read the book, you know what I'm talking about. Because the degradation of our consciousness, we took these powerful totems, these tools, to do harmful things because we had been told by the Anunnakis, by Draconians, by not all Anunnakis, obviously, but by some who were more aligned with the reptilian minds, to do these things to other human beings. And you can't deny it because across the world, we have a history of human sacrifice. Across the world. It doesn't matter if it was France, Ireland, it's across the world. How the fuck does that happen? Because we know it's wrong. We know it's, and yet it was being done. And so when we clear the energies using the crystals to clear our own chakras, if you've noticed when you go to certain Reiki masters, right, what do? They either put a grid around you or on top of your body, your chakras. They'll put particular crystals on your body. You can actually do it yourself, where you actually align yourself with the right crystal. You're just divinely guided to that crystal on your belly button, and this one between your legs, and that one on your third eye. It's like and you sit, you're laying down, activating your chakras. Why is that important? So that you become, it's almost like you're turning on all the switches to communication with the all, the creator. And you're bypassing all the filtering systems that come from planet Earth, the way it's been subjugated and abused, past the layers, the veneers that people call this grid that people want to sell to you, that you can't fucking leave this planet. Dude, I'm a fucking light being. I can go wherever the fuck I want. But as you know, when we die, right? If you believed in Jesus, or if you believed in whatever the fuck you believed in, the first, I'm gonna say this in human terms, the first hours, the first weeks, whatever you want to call it, you will experience what you think is reality, even out of the body. And the spirits, the healers, wait until you finally realize, oh yeah, that's all in my, this is not it. What is the truth? Show me the truth. And then they come in to say, okay, here it is. And then there's that final clearing and purging of the incarnation on 3D through the brainwashing that was the reality of that human being in 3D. And all is shed. Some of us shed right off the, it's very similar to, come to think of it, it's very similar to hypnotherapy. Some of us go into hypnotherapy and we go straight to source. Swear to God, we go right to the Akashic records or right to the galactic count. We just go right to it. We go right to past lives on other planets right off the bat. And some need to be inducted into childhood memories, pregnancy, past lives on this planet. And they have to go through all these steps to surrender completely. And some of us don't have to do that at all. We go right to boom. For example, once you surrender, you can actually program your hypnotherapy. I can't do it for you. I can be your hypnotherapist, don't get me wrong, but I can't do it for you. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. I went many times to my hypnotherapist saying, I have this problem. I need to know what the fuck's going on. And my soul, my mind would shut down. My soul would take me exactly to where the answers were. Where did this trauma come? Right here. Oh, wow, okay. Whereas some people can't. And the reason why you can't, some people can't, not you, but people, is because they are so uncomfortable with surrendering to what they don't know. That's why some of them can't do ayahuasca. They'll do ayahuasca. They'll do 3 fucking cups, vomit all day long, and never, never, never hit that place, that sweet spot, into the realms where you meet Pachamama, One thing I'll tell you, we all agree she's a feminine energy. You might see her, or all you do is you hear her, but it's a woman. And so when people say, and they crow, I can't get under it, weak minds are hypnotized, weak minds, and they go into ayahuasca and they can't fucking get under, it's because they're fucking jailed by fear, completely owned by it. And they think it's a flex. They think it's because they have a strong mind, a stubborn. No, you're terrified, my friend. You're fucking terrified of the unknown. You're terrified of yourself. You're terrified of what you might find. You're terrified of what you're going to go. You're terrified you may never come back in your body because you're so attached to your body. It's interesting, isn't it? But when you surrender and you have a problem, you're like, why am I doing this with my twin, for example, or why do I have anxiety out of nowhere? For example, you can actually, once you start, you can go right in and get, boom, it shows you 2-3 lifetimes going, oh yeah, okay, got it. And that's shed. The minute you can see it for what it is in the human experience, the minute you understand it, you go, oh yeah, done, and you're done. I write about it in Recall, where I talk about, what was his name? Ted. Ted goes into, he doesn't believe in shit, but he goes into a hypnotherapy session and shit's broken open. It has felt like having your birthright stolen from you. The way things work in America, it's enraging. It has made me work through the prison in the mind and find love. Exactly. Does the book says who has them now? Yeah, the book does have it. Okay, let me go back and read correctly in order. Sorry. Are these 1% jerks are part of our souls we haven't healed or accepted? Is there soul contracts to be on this way to help each other? It's horrible and painful. There's no soul contract. There's no soul contract. The only soul contract is for yourself to not be played once again. That's the only soul contract. It's you. The soul contract with, how we say we have soul contracts with other people. Meaningful people we have soul contracts with. But why do I say that we don't have soul contracts with these 1%? It's a collective soul contract. It's not my soul contract. Does that make sense? In other words, I don't feel like it's my, it's mine. Meaning, so because it starts out with letting go. It's a test I'm taking. Do I have a soul contract with my professor to pass? No. My professor can't make me pass the exam. I would have studied it. The professor is completely neutral. If my answers are correct, I will get an A+. If they're not, I will not. So do you understand? So this idea of soul contract with a twin flame, soul contract with a child, a mother, a father, that is in place because we have to figure each other out to make the karmic wheel of Dharma stop in the negative way. So we both, and sometimes we have to cut away and go, you know what? I forgive you. I forgive myself. We're done. And you get off the soul contract. A soul contract in the 1%, comment on dit, oppression is you pass the test, they can't oppress you, can they? Once your monkey mind is a slave or a apprentice to your soul, no one, do you understand? Really, the soul contract is between you and your monkey mind. And this monkey mind that we have, this personality called Tony or whatever, Jane Joe or whatever, is a temporary vessel. We got to keep remembering that because it's true. So, yeah, exactly. So it has felt like, okay, so let me read Cody. Constructs, we build around ourselves as identity become the world we identify with. Instead of having to face reality, we create our own that lead usually to suffering. Hello, there you go. There you go. And once the collective agrees that this suffering is the suffering that must happen for X, Y, and Z, or blame, or they can't find a way out, then it becomes a collective reality. And what is interesting, I'm going to bring it up again, is that in the Matrix, the last Matrix, right? The last movie where he has to go back in the machine. Do you remember? What was the message? And why would they make that the ending? That he had to go back. Every single story I've ever seen controlled by the 1%, the hero always loses. Always. Wouldn't it be interesting if Yeshua actually did go to France with Mary of Magdalena? Because I've heard that version, but that version is not as spoken about. He went to France and died an old man. He won. He did actually rise from death. He did rise 3 days after, and he won. He lived a mortal life in France, making love to his woman and having plenty of kids. Hence why the bloodline in France is so interesting to some of the powers that be. Don't you find that interesting? That's what I keep seeing. That every time we have a hero, they fail. So here comes Neo. He fails. Ultimately. Oh, you could say, well, he sacrificed himself. Okay, but he failed. He sacrificed himself. Why? Why is that the message? The message that we were given when we were made was to thrive. It's probably one of the things I do like about Radha and Krishna. They thrive. And those who surround them thrive. There's some rhetoric written by men. Yes, men. And embraced by matriarch toxic females. But there are certain things that was left alone that says there was a time when people lived beautiful, healthy, wonderful lives. Why else would we come into the physical world if not to feel the wind and to taste the flavor of a peach in the summer night? And to intertwine our tongue with our beloved, and to feel the entering of their bodies into ours, or vice versa. Why would we come here to suffer for this long of a time? We have to decide if this earth school is going to be a perpetual school, or when do we become graduates? I think that's what we're at. We're at the crossroad. When do we become graduates of this particular dimension? When? And that's, I think, what we're being asked to decide for ourselves. We have free will. It isn't the soul that kills itself. It's the monkey mind that commits suicide. When people commit suicide, it's the monkey mind that's pushing them to that end. It's a parasitical energy unless you know how to control it and train it. Train it. And you beat it down with mantras. You beat it down with the constant repeating of a mantra. Ahom prema. I mean, I only give very, Om Namah Shivaya. Very simple, right? This is important. I mean, if NASA's part of Project Bluebeam, if that's true, and they're using Sanskrit as a mathematical language, and it was given to us by the Creator to communicate to the energy of the all, why in the fuck aren't we using it? That's my question to you. Let me read your comments. I love that you guys are so active here. This is really cool. I love that version too. Definitely went to France. Let me read all your comments. Okay, so feel like I couldn't sleep at all. Last full moon, being in Cancer, home and love. Seems like the unconsequence was upset. Definitely went to France. How amazing that would be. I love that version. I've heard that too. It was a special place in southern France that was very naturesque. Shangri-La, subscribing. Oh, how cool, how sweet. Leveling up of your consciousness only learned through pushing the roots out. Yes, and any banana peel can make you slip. Lol, exactly. The monkey mind approach is like that too. Yes, Exactly. But it's worse. It's actually dangerous. It's what makes people take drugs. It's what makes people take heroin. I had a friend who I adored, Charlie, a mother of 5 kids, who would do it to soften the edges, take the H, and overdose by mistake. The monkey mind will pursue you into having, trust me. Why do we have people who say, I don't want to feel? Why do we have people pursuing pharma with like, yeah, whatever, doctor, I don't want to feel. I was first exposed to that in 2003, where I worked at the cooking school. It was a California School of Culinary Arts. It was a cordon bleu connected to France. That's why I took the job. Plus, I thought I could help people. I was in my early 30s, no, mid 30s. My son was born. And I met a student who was really a cute guy, AJ, never forget him. And he got contraband, some, SSRI. And he took it and he said that he was so depressed he didn't want to feel anymore. And he did not. Nothing bothered him anymore. And I said, well, what happens when you run out of your stash? He goes, I don't know, but I have a year's supply. Didn't want to feel. I had never come across that before. I, on the side, had battled depression for fucking decades. I was 8 years old when I first thought of committing, 8 years old. And it was the monkey mind. And when I had my flying dreams, I had the men in black, which I shared in other lives, how these creatures or these masculine energies of darkness come into the dreams of children to create and to seed massive panic, fear. It's very interesting. So when many of us who are light bringers, who are spiritual shamans and priests and priestesses, you know what I mean? We're like powerful souls that are going to evoke change, transformation in ourselves and others by just our presence. They know. The nefarious energies know on the other side. And we have also learned that when you're in 5, 6, 7, 8D, that doesn't mean you're a good soul. You could be a complete fucking asshole, a complete psychopath, as we now know, reading a lot of Zachariah Stitchin's translations. Okay, so we had a little moment of disconnection. I saw this trench coat spirit once that was near me. It was orange-haired, ginger, Rasta type entity. That's interesting. Pandora's box, only hope is left. It's more than hope. It's an unspoken knowing. It's an unspoken knowing. So I want to thank you all for being here. Cody, thank you for following me. That's so sweet. I appreciate that. Thank you for your trust. I'm going to go. It's 1:22. When was I 6? I was in an Easter play where I was whipping Jesus to be crucified. I looked at what I was doing and looked at the faces of people in the pews and realized that Jesus had cosmic. I hate these that you can't read. I'm waiting for you to finish that sentence. Consciousness. Huh. Wow, that's heavy. Sounds like my last Easter. Yeah, Easter is going to be interesting this year because last year, me and Andromeda Flame did, oh, bye, Tony. I hope I can book another service with you one day. I hope so too. I really do. Except I was Jesus lol, and it woke me up. I could not be safe either. Huh. My mind just went south just for a minute. Hang on. Let me think. I just want to thank you guys all. I'm glad this worked out. I hope you don't mind me and my drum. I'll try to do something prettier even next time so that you guys have something pretty to look at. And I woke up and I could not be safe either. Yeah, it could have been. We you got to ask yourself, Mama Yeti, if that is actually a past life where you were part of that, because some of you were there when Yeshua walked the planet, and or if you are picking up on the trauma that's hanging in purgatory. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a holographic memory of that instance and taking it on. I think I'm being shown that just like there are some people who actually do know light language, some of you actually know with your hands, like chi like Qigong energy, like Tai Chi energy. I'm being shown that many of you can actually move your hands across the sky, visualize the grids of purgatory. I'm using the word purgatory for a reason, to unlock images that are trapped, that are looping into the subconscious of the human mind. And that's important because what it does is purges out old toxic holographic memories, right, of what happened 2,000-3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. We need to unlock these looping purgatory looping footages of something that is no longer occurring. You could say, well, Tony, time is not linear, it's circular, so that everything is still happening. Yeah, right now Yeshua is walking on the planet. Well, I would say to you that what we need to do is unlock it so he doesn't keep walking on the planet, so that his mission is completed, and we release him so that he can be he no longer has to loop through this history, and other ways as well. Strange how we eat ham, pig, or on Easter when we're not supposed to. Kundalini Reiki. Yes. Well, you know what I'm going to say to you. I'm going to say to you, don't eat anything. Don't eat lamb, don't eat pig, don't eat this, don't eat that. Don't eat anything like that. You know, try to go more into vegetarianism. I'm not kidding. Trust me, you're not going to lose your hair. Because, I mean, not that it's the best thing, because a lot of people are pushing veganism because of the abuse of cows with the milk, you know. But at least you can do, I don't know what to say. I mean, we went from when I was a kid where I would see all the calves in the fields of Switzerland, France, with their mothers, to now not seeing those images. Okay, because now it's all about, you know, milk. I don't know what to say, honestly. When I was a vegan, I was in the best fucking shape I've ever been in my life. I was boxing 15 rounds, 3 minutes each, which is not an easy thing to do. I was running up hills. I was lifting weights. I could whatchamacallit, leg press. Well, I thought I was going to have a heart attack on the side note, but the most I've ever leg pressed was 350. But my average was like 250, to be honest. Okay, my average, I would do like 5 sets of 20 reps, for example, and deadlift at the most 135 pounds. So that was when I was a vegan. Okay, so just saying. Just drinking goat's milk and fruit. Good for you. Goat's milk. I used to give my son goat milk butter, which is not fucking cheap. I used to give him goat butter and goat milk because he had such a hard time with dairy, you know. Anyway, so anything else? We don't have to farm the way we are, just like everything else. The way of love and regeneration farming is being suppressed. Exactly. We need to farm like we used to 150 years ago. Okay, when everything was great. I like I said, I remember. I love that story too, and I'm gonna share it with you. One of my favorite memories of living in Switzerland when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I think no, I was 6 or 7 thereabouts, and there was a farmer that would come down with huge wheels of Gruyere and come down and bring and go from door to door in the apartment complexes we lived in, and sell his cheese. Sell his cheese door to door. And he was a small farmer, and that's how he made his living. So 100% like rye, for example. Yeah, I need to get into that too. I have a bread machine. Well, I don't have a bread machine, but I have a dough thing, whatever. You know, energy. It takes energy to do slow cooking and slow food. Slow food is like making bread, but right now we're being asked to do something more important than making bread. Though, not to put it down, because though some of you could actually make bread and have massive downloads of healing energy and messages. So you may want to get in the habit of like putting yourself in a zen. So high frequency music would be really important while you make your beautiful bread, for example. So, well, I'm really happy we did this live. I've got to tell you, is there anything else I should give you right now? Well, like New York used to have like say I don't know, but over 100% of rye farms. Now we like five, and they are trying to grow it. Thanks for the conversation. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a oracle card real quick for you guys as a gift because this is so cool that we're finally meeting each other in that way. And so I'm gonna go ahead and look at. So we're gonna use the Kali deck right here. All right. And I'm going to pull out a card for you as a final message for today. And again, thank you for your trust and thank you for your conversation. I can't believe how much more conversation I'm getting from YouTube and from TikTok. That's hysterical. So, hey, Angie, it's good to see you. So I'm going to do the Oracle card. And what's cool is you get to see it. So now I want you guys to get involved. The question we're asking the universe is, what is my message for this weekend? What is my message for this weekend? And when you're ready, click top, bottom, or I love the line too. It's funny. I've been thinking about a line for the 4 days, and now I just realized it. TikTok is dead. We'll see. It doesn't matter to me at the end of the day. It matters that a lot of people relied on it for their income and to save animals and people and homeless people. And anyway, YouTube people don't care. Yeah, well, when people don't care about other people, that's a problem. That's their own conscious fault. Okay, we all make our, we all make our. Well, I mean, we're not talking about all YouTube people. All right, so the drum was designed by Magdalena. That's her name, and her website. Or you can find her on Etsy under Naya, Naya, Moon Art, just so you know. And this drum reminds me of the father of my son's face. That's how beautiful he was. He had that kind of face with the green eyes. All right. It was a joke because now the flood of TikTok people is coming. Good, I'm glad. Everyone should come here. We have charities also. Fantastic. All right, so you guys pay attention. Top, middle, or bottom. Top, middle, or bottom. And the question is, what is my message for this weekend? What do I need to understand? When you're ready. Top, bottom, or middle. Top, bottom, or middle. Come on, guys. Or else I'll decide for you. It's up to you. Let me know. 40 more seconds. Top, bottom, or middle? Top. Great. Middle, top, middle. I need one more to break the middle. You got it, middle. All right, this is fucking perfect. So this is the card that came through, and it's 18, Lalita Tripura Sundari. Now 18, I hope you can see it. Here we go. 18 is spiritual material conflict. Spiritual material conflict, okay? And that's exactly what we're fucking dealing with. I'm not joking. Spiritual, you can't make this shit up if you tried. So let me read it to you. And we'll draw a conclusion to this live, and I want to thank everyone and your hearts and your power to manifest and your lovely, powerful, magnetic, charismatic, co-creative souls. Please trust in why you're here at this time. All right, let me read. 18, Lalita Tripura Sundari. With luminous grace, she plays her ways into our hearts, softening hardness and despair, awakening the remembrance of light, of love, of joy. No matter what you have experienced, your heart shall be cleansed and released from ugliness, sorrow, and pain. Negative karmic legacies will be cleared away. You can't make this shit up. Our divine sister goddess invites you to recognize her golden restorative beauty shining within your heart. Cultivate that which is worthy of such beauty, for this is your essential nature. Gracefully release all else with dignity. Let's continue. The third of the Mahavadya wisdom goddesses, Lalita Tripura Sundari, is the divine mother manifesting as light, playfulness, and beauty in the Shakti Tantras, or scriptures of the divine feminine. There are two schools. One school celebrates Kali as the primordial origin of the universe, and the other worships Lalita as such. Yet they are but two faces of the one divine mother. Lalita doesn't compete with Kali. She is her boon-giving brightness. Lalita's presence in a reading is a reminder to play. So you're supposed to play this weekend. You're supposed to have fun, watch funny movies, get a board game out, play poker, play chess, Go out and roll in the snow, go jumping in the ocean, whatever, however, go play, have fun, is the message for this weekend. Her sadhana or practice asks us to cleanse and heal our minds so we do not become consumed or overwhelmed by the suffering of ugliness happening in our world. Without denying the dark side, you can't make this up, Lee, of human nature, we can look through the inner eye to see what is happening at a spiritual level. If we look for the inner spiritual truth, we will find divine beauty. That is the courage, kindness, selflessness, generosity, love, and strength that humans develop and express in response to their problems. Lalita is the power to recondition the mind away from agony into delight. This doesn't require changing the world, but rather seeing it differently. Instead of seeing humanity as victimized, weak, ego-driven, and wounded, we can affirm humanity as a collective of spiritual brave souls willing to incarnate and grow during a challenging time of spiritual obscuration on earth. There is divine beauty in such boldness of spirit. Internally, we shift from despair to awe, changing our chemistry along with our consciousness. Do you understand? Changing your chemistry along with consciousness. I know it's snowing. I'm seeing it. As that takes place, we begin to vibrate energetically at a higher frequency. Challenges are recognized as means through which blessings can be activated. The mindset of the warrior fighting against darkness can shift into the mindset of the priestess, facilitating the increasing presence of spiritual light upon earth. Did you hear that? We were once warriors. We saw it didn't work. We now return as priests and priestesses to change the energy. Same world, same circumstances, but different approach, interpretation, and response, which in turn leads to a different experience and future for all of us. Sometimes we need the darkness, the feistiness of Kali and the warrior spirit, yet at other times the lightness of heart, the delighted mind, and the buoyant spirit are all that which will open the way for us. For life to happen, we need both night and day, winter and summer, and everything in between. Lalita is the reminder to give due honor to the brightness and light, especially if we have been dealing with a lot of darkness, which we have. In a reading, Lalita Tripura Sundari is a sign of good things intended for you. The ending of a truly difficult time is near as a spiritual shift from the dark night of the soul into something of a golden era in your life. And the planet is going through a dark night of the soul. We are the wayfarers because many of us have already gone through the darkest, darkest, darkest night of the soul. And we came out transformed. And now we can show the way to planet Earth on how to do it and its inhabitants. It is a promise of release into beauty and grace. Do your work to orient yourself, to shift your inner being, to be ready for her. What would it be like to dispense with worry and dwell within a continued infusion of golden grace? This is the way of Lalita. Be open to experience of rest, pleasure, and beauty, which can elevate your frequency and help you discover new solutions to old issues. Lalita helps the mind break free from poverty consciousness and belief in lack. Inner healing and transformation manifest through her playful energies. We become able to find delight and joy once more. Tripura translated as 3 cities and refers to the triple goddess, as a virgin, Bala, as a fertile woman, Sudari, and as a crone, Bevari. In a reading, this oracle indicates a change so radical and profound that it is irreversible. A previous chapter of your life is truly closing and will not be reopened. This will be reason for celebration, for the intervention of Lalita in our lives brings only delight, joy, happiness, and fulfillment. Whatever you need to release right now shall create the space for what is divinely destined for you to manifest through her grace. You have every reason to feel hopeful. If you've been struggling with poverty consciousness or have lost a sense of joy and gratitude for your life, Lalita is a portent of heart healing and restoration of grace, light, and dignity in your heart. You shall awaken to your true inner beauty. You shall enjoy a change of pace and release from intensity. Open your heart and orient your mind towards a golden era. Beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm in upstate New York. I love that. I went tubing yesterday. I hear you. Do we believe in reincarnation? I have to look up the name, line, and then I don't understand. For some reason, I wish to draw paint. I got you. Once that pineal gland is hit, you can't go back. I felt that way when I learned about Terran mold of health. No more germs for me. I can't go back. New York is beautiful. Yes, it is. Upstate New York is beautiful. Never come to Colorado. It's a burning dumpster fire. I've been trying to get out for years. I'm so sorry about that. Anyway, no snow yet. Upstate New York, Toga. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, we're having it in upstate here. What's interesting about New York, upstate New York, is there'll be like blocks, like literally like portals where it's fucking snowing and the sky is milky white, and then suddenly it's like sunlight. It's like and the skies are open and blue. It's the weirdest thing, and it's literally you're driving through it. It's crazy. So I'm not surprised. No snow yet on your end. Any other questions or comments? Anything else? Okay, I want to thank you very much for being here. I'm going to call it a day. Hopefully I can upload this video or New York City here. Gotcha. I used to live in New York City when I was a kid. But any questions or comments? Anything you want to share with the collective? Any concerns? So this weekend, which is almost over, but enjoy it. Well, no, actually, for some of you, you've got Monday as well. Enjoy. Don't worry, be happy, which was coined by Meher Baba, not the singer, but you know, Meher Baba. And don't worry, be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Everything happens for the best. Everything is absolutely beautiful. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. Don't fight where you are and where you live. And when you stop fighting, the universe will go, oh, they got it. Okay, let's release them to wherever they want to be now. That's what I've had to do as well. In many, many times, jobs, places, and people. Let go, surrender to where you are, into the now, and be happy with what you have. What do you have? Well, you have a bed. You have blankets. If you want to make a cup of tea, you can. If you want a beautiful coffee, you can. If you want to sit in silence, you can. There is silence that surrounds you if you want it. If you want to listen to music, you can. You're not alone in that gift in the Western world. And this is not to compare you to people who are literally trying to figure out how to survive another day. Right here in this country. Yes, we have the Middle East and the awful fucking injustices being perpetrated by the 1%. But we have people right here, right now, in the Carolinas, in the mountains, who are homeless by design. You have everything you need right now. So be grateful. Okay? All right. Sending you much love on your journey. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste. Be well. And I don't know how to end this, but hopefully it's ended. Yep.